There's a lot of things in this old world that just do not make sense. Like why there's so few believers on the firing line, while so many others sit the fence. But if you want to know where the Word of God stands, and believe it wants to use your feet and hands, it's time to take your faith out of the seats and into the streets, and come along with me. If you only look, then you will see on WCNTV.
Welcome, folks, to another edition of WCNTV. Rob Pugh with you. And before we get started, I once again need to plug our upcoming event, our 2020 Vision Ministry Expo and Conference, coming up March 13th and 14th in Marshfield, Wisconsin. Great lineup of speakers. We're going to have tons of resources and valuable stuff for you to get. So plan now to be there. If you have any questions, contact us. My email is just simply Rob, R-O-B, at WisconsinChristianNews.com, or you can call my phone, 715-486-8066. But please don't call till the show is done. We have a great guest today, our good friend Bradlee Dean from Sons of Liberty, Sons of Liberty Media and Sons of Liberty Radio. He's got a great news feed, blogs, and just a ton of wealth of information. He also is a conference speaker, does a lot of speaking in schools, and that in itself is amazing with his the information he provides. So, Bradlee, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Living for the devil the best that I knew how, because I didn't know the difference, to be quite honest with you. And I just started to cry out to God. God started to answer me. I started to ask for the heart of David. I wanted to understand David, because what I see in modern day Christianity compared to biblical Christianity were black and white. There was a stark contrast of difference concerning what the Bible says and who the Lord is through the patriarchs compared to what we see today in America. And with that said, he started to break me down to show me who I wasn't, to show me who he was. And before I knew it, I was going through a process. The Bible says in Psalm 51, verse 17, the sacrifices of God are a broken and a contrite heart, O Lord, thou wilt not despise. So I began to understand that it wasn't about me. As a matter of fact, it was Jesus that said that he who tries to save his life will lose his life, but he who loses his life for my sake will find it. So I began to understand that little by little, as he was breaking me down. It was Leonard Ravenhill that rightly said, Rob, the greatest miracle that God can perform is take an unholy man out of an unholy situation, clean him up, and put him back into that unholy situation. And it's exactly what he did with me. Going fast forward, there's much to say concerning my testimony, but going fast forward, I started to go to a local church where there's a prophetic pastor there. Interestingly enough, I went there for probably 6 months, and then I was invited to go up to the youth group to give my testimony there. So I did so. I was invited, went up and gave my testimonial, and before I knew it, I was kind of a regular speaker up there. And the youth pastor for 6 months kept talking about what needed to be done and how we were going to go into high schools, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm not born of that type. Those that are born in the fire don't settle for the smoke. I was a doer of the word, not a hearer, only deceiving myself. And it just got to the point where there was enough talk, Rob. I had to do something. So what happened is I pushed this youth pastor to basically show me what he's talking about, because I figured if he's not going to do it, I'm going to. And little did I know that that's what God was calling me to do. We ended up going to a high school in Blaine, Minnesota, the biggest high school in the state. And in the process, he had went way over into a corner during the lunch period. And I said to him, I asked the question, I said, why are we over here when we should be doing the high school assembly for all 3,000 students? Well, apparently he didn't like that. It didn't matter. Before I knew it, I was invited to do a high school assembly in Centennial in the state of Minnesota, Lino Lakes, Minnesota. I did that high school assembly on their request. The principal invited me back the very next year. The first assembly I did with that youth pastor, but when I was invited back the second time, he'd asked me not to bring him. He said, I want you to do the assembly. So before I knew it, I did one assembly the first year, 3 the second year. The third year, we did over 100 high schools. And we've been doing them ever since, because what we wanted to do, Rob, is be a part of the answer, because what we've seen is the young people in the country being subjected to everything and protected from nothing. And one thing I never understood is, why wasn't the church going into the high schools? I mean, they almost acted as if the state owned the kids when the state don't have children. And what we found is 86% of those that actually send their kids into public high schools are those that profess to be Christians, patriots, and or conservatives. So getting you up to full speed, we're still doing high schools. We just did Dr. D. James Kennedy's last year, which was probably the third Christian school that we did out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of high schools across the country, which, by the way, were public schools. We never lost the right.
And what is your message when you go into the schools? Is it a Christian message? I know you have a wealth of information, so
yeah.
Give us kind of an overview of what you talk about.
Sure. When we do high school assemblies, we play music. Paul said, I become all things to all men to win the more to Christ. I'm the drummer for Junkyard Prophet, the #1 Christian band in the country. And I'm also endorsed by major companies. So we use that as a tool to win the kids' respect. We play Christian music. There's no compromise in anything that we do. Once I'm done, I go out. We can have school assemblies up to 3,000 to 3,300 students in the school. And the first thing I ask them is, how many in this room know your founding documents, from the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution to the Bill of Rights? And I have the student body laugh at me, guys. And I say to them, well, what's so funny? If you don't know your rights, guess what? You don't have any rights. And then the next question I ask them, I lay it to them, a law unto itself. I ask them the question, so how many in this room have had grandpas and dads and uncles and brothers, cousins, perhaps your neighbors, that fought, bled, and died fighting to ratify the Constitution of the United States of America and giving you the freedoms that you have through their sacrifice? And for the next 2.5 to 3 hours, I have their undivided attention, because they didn't understand that someone actually paid the price for the freedoms in which they have, because we all understand that freedom's not given unto us to do what we want to do. Freedom is given unto us to do what we ought to do. And then what I do is I go through a plethora of topics. You've seen these, Rob. And I go through for about 2.5 to 3 hours, and I go through everything that they're being lied about, and I bring them back to the foundation of who they are. See, the point is if they don't know where they came from, they don't know where they're going. So we got to show them their history. We have to educate them, and that's what we do. And then at the end of the assembly, I ask them the question, do you remember what I asked you concerning your grandpas and your dads and your uncles and your brothers, your cousins, maybe your neighbors? Someone had to pay the price for your freedoms, right? I tell them, I say, do you understand that during World War I, there was 116,516 men that fought, bled, and died ratifying the Constitution, that you thought it was funny that you didn't know what they fought, bled, and died to give you? Did you know that during World War II, there was 405,399 men that fought, bled, and died ratifying the Constitution to give you the freedoms that you have today? What are you doing with those blood-bought freedoms, guys? Did you know that Korea, by the way, had 38,511 men that fought, bled, and died ratifying the Constitution that you said that you didn't know? And then I bring it to Vietnam, where there was 58,121 men that fought, bled, and died. And then I go on to tell them about Iraq and Iran and that as well of Afghanistan. And then I tell them I come from a military family. World War I, my grandpa was there. World War II, my uncles were there. Korea, my dad was picking up body parts, and my cousin got killed in Vietnam. Guys, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And what we find, Rob, is you don't have to beat them over the head. You just simply have to show them the price of their freedoms and then educate them in the process. And it's the same thing in the body of Christ. We preach Christ crucified because that's the pearl to the church. And we found in the natural, because remember, Jesus said in 1 Corinthians 2, verse 14, that the natural man receives not the things of the Spirit of God because they're spiritually discerned. So we're going in there and literally preaching the gospel in the natural. And if a student asks me a question, I'll open it up for questions and answers if they would so choose to. And if someone asks me, well, why do you do what you do? Then I can begin to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ to them. And this we have done over and over and over again. And we're going to continuously do it.
So out of the hundreds of high school assemblies that you've done, how do you find the current state of education?
Well, it's not
are they still teaching civics classes, history classes? Have they rewritten the history? What do the kids know and what don't they know?
Well, it's not education anymore. It's indoctrination. Now you have international baccalaureate, which, by the way, is an international global scheme. For anybody paying attention, we just found out Donald Trump took Betsy DeVos, his Secretary of Education, just recently, and they basically signed on to the UN Global Initiative. Very few people know about this, but those that are paying attention are. If you go back just a little bit, you can also find that George Bush had No Child Left Unindoctrinated, and that's what it should have been called, not No Child Left unattended or uneducated, again, because that's really what it comes down to. What they're trying to do, Rob, is level the playing field. Nobody's better than anybody else, and what they want to do is they're teaching kids to shoot for the floor rather than for the stars. And then we had Common Core. So what we see things is progressively getting worse and worse and worse in this country up until what I just told you as to what just took place recently. I've had principals tell me that the science and the history books are being changed every 3 to 7 years. And he thought that was funny. I don't know what was funny about that. We know that they're teaching in public schools earth worship, evolution, socialized medicine, world government, animal rights, redistribution of American wealth. Planned Parenthood is A-OK. It's a good thing to do. Debt forgiveness to third world nations, adoption of the gay rights agenda, and elimination of the right to bear arms, and then also setting aside, what this has to do with education, I have no idea, but setting aside massive amounts of private land where no human presence is allowed. These are the things that are being taught in public schools, and by the way, we are being a part of the answer by going in and sharing with them as we educate, which stands in stark contrast as to how they're trying to indoctrinate.
And how are your presentations received? By the school administration, principals, teachers?
Yep. You can go to sonsoflibertyradio.com. We literally have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of referrals from superintendents, from principals, from political figures. I mean, just all across the board. We've been back to schools. I've done probably 50 high schools in Minnesota, 50 in Iowa, probably 50 in South Dakota, 50 in North Dakota, about 50 in Wisconsin, and the list goes on. And that was just in the 5-state area. But we've been called back to schools up to 3 times in 1 year. Now, what's interesting about all that, Rob, is once the gay agenda began to put its foot in the door through the CIA-controlled mainstream media and their useful idiots, that's when we began to fall subject to their attacks. And that was under George W. Bush, by the way. Many people believe that he was a Christian president. Well, in fact, if you pulled the curtain back behind him, he was the one that was actually advocating the gay agenda. He was the one initiating as to what we're dealing with today. So it's not about education. It is definitely about a global initiative and subjecting them to a global order at this point. No doubt about it.
And the kids get it. Right? I mean,
Totally do.
they can easily identify with you. You're a younger guy. You do the music. And then you bring in the information. And one thing that I found that young people despise is being lied to and being taken advantage of. And when you show them what they've been taught and how it's wrong, they light up.
Backfires.
So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it does.
backfires. We did a high school assembly in Kabul, Missouri. Interestingly enough, it had the highest pregnancy rate. It also had the highest crystal methane rate. Now, no wonder why it had the highest pregnancy rate, because on the way out there, we noticed all these pornographic signs, these adult bookstores for mature audiences only, so on and so forth.
This is Missouri?
Yeah, no, this was in Missouri. And I remember—
Heart of the Bible Belt.
Yeah, and I looked at the bus driver and I said, it's interesting. I said, because here, before you become a full-fledged pervert, you got to be 18 years old. And I said, look at the stuff that they're promoting all the way out to this school, and then they're trying to figure out why their kids are doing it. Well, the Bible says in Luke 7:35 that wisdom is justified by her children. And with that said, I did one high school assembly there. And you can watch this online, by the way. But when I did the high school assembly, I was actually promoting life. Well, the school industry and the educational, as they call it, the indoctrination, and the useful idiots called teachers that are a part of the NEA now, they want to normalize abortion, and they don't want anybody exposing them for who they are. So what I did is I went inside and I actually showed them life. And there's a picture of Samuel Armis, the famous picture of the baby grabbing the doctor's finger who had spinal bifida. And the parent said, yes to life, let's fix his spine. Well, I showed that picture to 700 students. And in the process of doing that, Rob, the principal walks out. I almost couldn't believe it. It was the first time it happened. But a principal walks out and he says to his students and his teacher faculty, if this offends anybody, you can leave. One teacher, and we believe it was the teacher's daughter, actually got up and walked out. 698 students and teacher faculty remained. I said, okay. Nobody was offended. So a couple minutes later, the principal comes out and says, assembly shut down. There's an emergency over at the school. He lied to the students because he was offended that nobody followed his lead, in offense because of the picture of life that I was advocating for. Now, with that said, when he came over and he shut down the assembly program, what most people in the media especially do not want the people to know is that that teacher faculty, along with the student body, stood up and gave me a standing ovation. See, what people don't realize is public school students understand that they're being subjected to everything and protected from nothing. They know that they're being lied to. They're trying to figure out why they're surrounded by their pastors every Wednesday and Sunday, and their parents that are dropping them off at public school. They're trying to understand where the love is that they talk so much about, where it actually comes into play in protecting them from what they're being subjected to. Now, with that said, Rob, on the way out, you can watch this on the film. You can watch the teachers in the back stand up and give an ovation for life. You can see the students around me, a couple hundred of them, apologizing for their principal, coming up to me and asking me the question. And I propose this question to everybody that's watching even now, namely the adults. The students are asking me, what are we supposed to do? Why are our young people in public school, Rob, having to fight off those that their parents are actually leading them to? And it's interesting, the parents complain about what's going on in public school. By the way, the federal government has no business in education whatsoever. This was all started under Jimmy Carter. As a matter of fact, William Hanson, who was actually the Secretary of Education under Ronald Reagan, said that the longer that students stay in public schools, the stupider they get. And you can see that that apple didn't fall too far from the tree when we found that over 700,000 students every year that graduate public schools in America cannot even read their own graduation diplomas. So the hypocrisy is from here to heaven. And the bottom line is the adults need to take responsibility for what's going on in public schools. And the bottom line is if they'd pull their kids from public schools, it would all stop just like that.
What you just talked about there, the assembly where the principal tried to shut it down, where do we find that on your website?
You can
is that a clip that we could possibly show here today?
Yeah, you can. Jared, if you'd like to go over and jump onto Bradlee Dean, I'll try to see if I can pull it up, and then just pull up abortion, and it should pull up concerning what took place there. And I'm looking right now for, yep, here it is right here.
I'm just thinking the viewers would like to see that.
Oh, sure. I'll send it over to you, Rob, right now. Is that okay?
Send it to Jared. He's the man.
Okay, Jared is the man.
Yep.
Jared, I'm coming over here, man, and I'm trying to find you, and I will shoot it over to you.
Jared, our producer in North Carolina.
Which one is it? What's your last name, Jared?
Heath, Heath.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha right here. Sent. You should have it.
Okay. How long is the video?
It's a pretty short one, but you get the gist of what I was saying right at the beginning of it.
Okay, good. Let's watch it. And where was this again?
Kabul, Missouri.
Okay, great.
It's an 8-minute video, but what I just talked about was the very beginning, and then I kind of got into it with the principal during the end of it. So you guys can play at will, which you so choose.
Okay. Well, let's watch the whole thing.
It has been said that has the highest crystal methane rate in the country. This administration's activities this day seriously messed up. The students, most awesome as usual. This is one of those videos where less is better. I'll commentate where need be, but I'll let the video do most of the talking for me. Here again, I'm teaching the kids who we are as a people. I'm teaching them the Constitution of the United States. You know, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In this particular assembly, I am showing the youth a mother who is having an operation where the baby actually reaches out and grabs the doctor's finger during the operation. This principal apparently did not like the preservation of life.
Marshall!
He walks out in the middle of my assembly and says,
If anybody's not comfortable with what you're hearing, you do have the opportunity to not hear it. You may leave now if you don't like what you're hearing. Okay?
That is amazing.
He did it.
Yeah, crazy.
fair enough. You know, I'm just blown away. I'm blown away that we have come so far in this country to not listen to what used to be law in this country, which still is law in this country. And I'm just bringing you back to the constitutional signers of this country that died for our Constitution to show you what we're supposed to be upholding. That's all I'm showing you. Once he sees no one leaves, this makes him even more mad. So he comes back in and stops the assembly.
High school kids, out.
He's like a college job for 40 years.
We got what?
So I appreciate you guys staying, do your homework.
The students thanking me and then telling me that they were sorry for the actions of their principal.
I support everything you say.
Thank you. Awesome. Go home and tell your mom, all right?
You did a great job.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. See you guys. Yeah. Thanks for staying, you guys. Appreciate it big time. You guys stand together and things will start to change. That's how things change around here, okay? Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Don't be rebellious, just stand up. Read your Constitution, you guys, and you guys will see what I'm saying. I don't need to say anything. Something's weird. Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for helping us yesterday.
I was going to know, do you have any?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, hey, Coach.
The cowardly coach goes behind the scenes to tell me, keep it up.
Don't worry about what happened.
Oh, I'm not.
But you touched a kid, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I got you.
The principal then sends in security to kick the kids out. Wow.
Megan says there's quite a few that she can't get out.
They're moving. Come on, guys.
I want them out. You need me?
No. Move. Go.
Why is the question?
You asked them if they wanted to leave, and they all stayed. But yet you took it upon yourself to pull them out.
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, if I had a stadium set up across the street, I'd set up just to prove my point. But 3/4 of your school came up and thanked you. Well, you pulled them out because of 1 or 2 people.
Yes.
That's pretty spineless. You don't stand for something.
Why are you here? Whoa, why are you here?
I have to
What do
take.
you mean,
Okay.
why am I here?
Are
To
you here?
educate
Are
your
you here
kids.
for a message? Okay.
Yeah.
How much did this message cost me?
What does that have? I don't care.
Oh,
if you,
nothing to do with it.
No, if you
It's
didn't
not
pay
about
me, I'd
money,
give
right?
you your
It's
school.
not about money.
No, it's not
This
about
is
money.
Little did this principal know that we are out raising money to pay for what he did not.
Yeah, I understand
It's okay.
that, but I'm trying to see how you justify that.
Because
I was teaching the Constitution.
because I'll take care of that this afternoon.
Yeah.
Sir, why did you even stop the assembly? What's the problem?
You gave me the option to leave. That's all you had to do.
Only 2 people left and you gave me the option. The rest wanted to stay. So you stopped.
Okay, time out. Whoa. Are you sure?
I watched them.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
2 people.
Yeah, that's what he said. He
Okay.
I watched the
And
people
you're
in the
sure?
corner. Yeah.
Okay, well, there were 3. There were 3. Bottom line is, I think it's a money thing.
No, it's
Money?
not. If we do this for money,
Take your money back. I'll give you your money back.
We
You
don't-
prove my point.
Promise?
Yes.
Will you write that down right here?
Yes, I will. I
Yeah.
will give you your money back. Now, what are you asking me
I
for?
want you to write down that you are here free of charge and expect the school district to pay you nothing.
Okay, and then
There
you're
is
gonna call
no,
them back in.
there's no,
What are you talking about?
because if it's not for money,
It's
write
not.
down that you do not expect payment from the school district.
No, that's not the point. You're not even making any sense. That's fine.
Sir.
You're not even making any sense.
That's okay.
I'm telling you, I will take the money and give it back to you and have your kids come.
No, I don't want you to get back to it. I just want you to say that the school district owes you nothing and sign it and date it.
Sir, why
You are unreasonable, man.
And
You know this is wrong. I'm not here to disrespect the principal, but we just disrespected 600 kids.
But that's okay. The principal's fine with however you feel about the principal, he's fine with that. He's okay. I'm the principal. I'm okay with whatever you think about me, however you find. I'm okay with that.
I'm trying to understand. I don't care. I'm not.
But yes, I am spineless and I'm okay with that. Okay? Thank you.
He's playing the victim.
After we loaded up our gear and vacated the premises, we went to get something to eat. And while we were walking into the restaurant, we were approached by some of the locals who had heard what happened in the school. They had told us that the youth were angry and wanted us to set up at the local church, and that's what we did that night. So they came, we set the story straight, did a portion of the assembly, we talked with the kids, and won the day. The youth had come up to me to tell me that they were sorry for the actions of their principal,
I just wanted to say I'm sorry for Christoph being so disrespectful.
when in fact they have nothing to be sorry for.
That's
But
cool.
I just wanted to say thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having us. Big time. You know what? Hey, seriously? That's all right. Really.
Yeah, but
I got
that
this
makes our
opportunity.
school bad.
I'm sorry that they're subjected to such immaturity, especially in administration that does not know that they're supposed to be the ones leading the way.
If people rise up and see what's going on, something will change. It'll have to change. And that's what we need to do. You guys need to do it. I can't do it for you. They kicked me out. See, they helped me move everything in, but they gave me the boot on the way out.
America, it's time to take back our schools. It's also interesting to note that high governmental authorities also took the time to come that night, and at the end, they'd even given me and the crew a standing ovation for doing the right thing. Again, the assembly shut down for 3 people, 2 immoral teachers, and 1 bewildered student. How does that work, America?
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, that
It
just
makes me angry just watching it again. I haven't watched that for
I
years.
can imagine.
With 600
Yeah, I
students,
mean, it just
3 students. Sorry.
Yeah, shows the absolute indoctrination that the left. I mean, they've infiltrated the higher ranks of school administration. So
Yeah. Well,
it
as
comes
they
from the
say,
top down.
yeah, as they say, Rob, whatever you let them get away with, they're going to do it. It's exactly what they're doing because they don't have a lawful right to advocate. They're acting subversively towards our kids. And the bottom line is they don't have a right. There's no law in the enumerated laws found within the U.S. Constitution that gives them the right to do the wrong thing. Yet they're doing.
And there was no problem, just to get things straight, there was no problem with the presentation you were doing until you brought out the images of the baby.
That's right. That's right. In that particular case. Now, I've had it happen before where we were in Arkansas and we were doing something very similar. And then we had the Christian principal who came back and didn't like the fact that we were using Christian lyrics in our music. So he shut down the assembly program in Arkansas as well. But what people need to see is if we're willing to bear the cross, as Jesus said, deny yourself and take up your cross and follow me, that you might understand the power of God unto salvation. Remember, Rob, Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all men nigh unto me. When that kind of trouble comes, what people don't understand is it completely backfires. That fire spreads to the people and to the communities, not just locally, sometimes even nationally, to awaken the people as to what the government is up to, as well as what the CIA-controlled media is up to. And they want to stifle our message. And the only way that we're going to get it out there is if we're willing to go ahead and die for our cause in so many different ways. And that's not far-fetched.
And you've had a lot of attention from the national media also on your presentations, haven't you?
That's right. We had, as a matter of fact, I was doing a broadcast in Minneapolis. We were on Salem Communications for 13 years here. And we noticed the gay community was they were going to a local church and everything was okay with them and Jesus. And we started to notice, of course, the preachers, the hirelings in the pulpits were omitting 33 scriptures that condemn what they themselves were advocating for. And so I took the time to be a faithful witness that delivers souls. And I started to show them in scripture where homosexuality is not a sin, it's an abomination. They're called crimes against nature in every state of our union. And they still are, by the way. And all of a sudden, they just started to attack me relentlessly. George Soros outlets called The Independence. Then we got national news from CNN, from New York Times, from MSNBC. I mean, they were just laying heavy on me in hopes that I was going to bow to their whims. And I didn't. As a matter of fact, when MSNBC came after us, I did a broadcast, Rob, where I highlighted the fact that Muslims that were now coming into America, and I was warning the homosexuals, I said, the Muslims coming into America now are calling for your execution. Well, Rachel Maddow on MSNBC thought it'd be really cute to omit the fact that I said the Muslims were calling for the execution. They omitted 45 seconds from one of my broadcasts, and they cut and paste to make it sound like I was the one calling for their execution. So before they knew it, we took it to New York. We got an attorney, and we were going after MSNBC, only to find out that the courts are there to protect big interests, just like the media is. You know, we're told that it's the laws there to protect us from those that mean to commit crimes against us, rather they be corporations or just normal people. Well, the fact of the matter is we've seen that the media was hand in glove with the courts to go ahead and squelch anybody that would actually invoke or make reference to the law that in fact condemns their crimes. They didn't want anything to do with it. But I'm also not the guy that they're going to stab in the back and walk away, expect me to walk away from it. We will return fire. And this ministry means what it says, and we're not trying to be outside of anything, outside of the fact that I want to be one that is found to be practicing what I'm preaching when it comes to the judgments that guard our liberties. And that's exactly what we're missing in this country, is the good people in this country, allegedly, are allowing the bad people to do the things that they do, and that has to stop, and it has to stop soon.
Well, I think a big part of the problem is the apathy of the people.
That's right.
We've been, after, 2-3 generations of this indoctrination in our failing government schools, people just don't care anymore. They don't know, and they don't want to know in a lot of cases.
Rob, what they think is the adults think, well, I went through it too. But people need to understand, you didn't go through what they're going through. I mean, they're being subjected to evolution, which used to be illegal in this country. They're being subjected to the sodomite agenda, which is illegal in this country. They're being subjected to indoctrination. And by the way, we've set 3 lawful precedents in the country where people want to come at us. We've gotten our attorneys, we've got 3 of them on a national level that just took it right back to the school district, and we dealt with them right on the spot, and we won the day. See, God is willing to give the church what it's willing to fight for, Rob. The problem is those that call themselves Christians, you don't see a whole lot of them doing any fighting. And therein lies the problem. But the answer is God is willing to give the church again what it's willing to fight for, and he does.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, we see it all the time. So, in addition to the public and Christian school assemblies, tell us about the rest of your ministry. I know you're a family ministry. You travel with your wife and kids.
Yep.
You're homeschoolers. Tell us a little bit more about what's all involved.
Well, you don't get one without the other here. You know, it's interesting. People talk about how it's first God and then their family and then their ministry, or however they want to organize that. That's just not true. My wife is a PK kid, a pastor's kid. And the last thing I wanted to do is have my kids hate God because I'm always serving him without them. Well, what I found is that when I take them with me, they can see daddy preaching the gospel. They can see daddy getting beat up by the lying media. They can see daddy actually going through the process of staying on that straight and narrow and difficult is the way. And then that way, when I'm gone, they understood because they had an example in front of them doing what we were called to do. And that is to follow Christ and to become fishers of men, Mark 4:17. So, and my wife's very much a part of that too. We also are involved on a music aspect. There's a lot of utilities on our belt here. We're working on album projects right now with Warner Brothers, Geffen Records, major labels. We've been doing that for years now, and we're using 2 different bands. We just got off a tour with Drowning Pool, with Creed, Sick Puppies. The list goes on. My kids are a part of all of this, and they are hands-on. And I want to reiterate the point that every one of us in this family, every day of my life, 24/7, we are devoted to what we're called to do, as is my wife and as are my kids. So if we're not on television, if we're not at a tea party, we're at a college. If we're not at a college, we're at a high school. Last year was probably the busiest year of ministry, Rob, that we've had in 23 years. We were literally 2 and 3 different places across the United States every single month last year. And we're hoping that this year is going to even exceed that, because my objective, like that of John Adams, the 2nd president of the United States of America, is we're going to have to answer to God for everything that we're doing here. And it's not only my objective, but it's my duty to be diligent about raising our kids. And my wife knows it, and I know it, and we're honored by God that we can actually have them a part of everything that we do, and they are. So I'm excited to see what they're going to become. I really am, because they're definitely getting the training in the process. But I believe that this is how God has ordained the family, that we should all be doing this together, not separate one from another.
Well, it is a great ministry, and we, speaking for myself and many others, I know that we look forward to seeing Stephanie and the kids just as much as we look forward to seeing you when you come to our conferences. So
yeah, well, you got a little taste of her singing last time we seen you in Montana, and that's that's another part of what we're doing here right now. As a matter of fact, we're in process of doing that even now. So we'll see what becomes of what we're doing here. And as far as the seed sown, we'll see the harvest soon enough. Hopefully, in the next up and coming months here.
Okay, tell us about your radio program.
The radio program, we have 118 affiliates across the United States of America. That's growing exponentially over the last 6 years. It went from 16 to 118. People are tired. They're tired of the rhetorical talk. They're tired of the divide and conquer. They're tired of the left-right paradigm. When you look at our Constitution, there is no left-right. There is no Democrats. There is no Republicans. There is no 101 other party affiliates. We are ruled as a republic. We're ruled by God, Article 4, Section 4. And people want answers. By the way, the left-right paradigm is designed by the media. It's a political language designed to make lies sound truthful. And it's designed to divide and conquer the American people so that they're easily conquered by those that are dividing them. Read Mark 3:25 when you get a moment. Jesus said, if the house be divided against itself, it will not stand. Well, that's what's at work here in the United States of America. So we continuously stick to the Bible, which is the rock upon which our republic rests, said President Andrew Jackson. And we always bring about the resolve. Yes, we take the time every day on radio to show people the issues, but we're constantly exposing what's lawful, what's not lawful. Then we bring in the resolve, and then we lay it to the responsibility of the people to actually be the strength of the laws found in the U.S. Constitution against those crimes, against what is unconstitutional. Therefore, it's laid on the people as their responsibility rather than us leaving the show and say, well, we didn't show them what they were supposed to do concerning the issues that we're dealing with today. So we want to be free from the blood of all men, and we make sure that we do that every day by, again, laying the responsibility at their feet. Because in this country, Rob, we are the government. It's we the people. That's the preamble of the U.S. Constitution. When you read the Declaration of Independence, we see that those that serve we the people derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. That's we the people. So they work for us. We do not work for them. And what did Thomas Jefferson rightly say? He said that when the people fear the government, you have tyranny. That's where we're at today. But when the government fears the people, and I'm talking filial, not diabolical, but when the government fears the people, you have liberty. So we always want to bring it back to that. And again, bring the answers to the people, and just like a knife cutting through hot butter, just bring about the answers that are so desired by the people, or at least that's what they say they want.
Yeah, and I've heard your show. I've listened to it quite often. It's good common sense. If people don't have a terrestrial station where they can get that, they can listen online, correct?
Correct. Go to sonsoflibertyradio.com, or you can go to Genesis Communication Network. You'll see that the bar is right on the left. We're usually ranking at number 1 or number 2, right there with Alex Jones, concerning every show that we got. So we're not doing bad for a bunch of punks over here, Rob. Let's put it that way. And I thank God for the opportunity.
Okay. And you do you also do television or video?
We do television. We, as a matter of fact, Dove Television broadcasted my war series, which is available on sonsoflibertymedia.com. It's a 5-part series, and they broadcasted it for 42 different weeks. Not only are we doing radio, but we also do local television here. And I'll tell you what, when we do local television here, there's no better way to say it than it really seriously hits the core of who we are dealing with, because they do not want people standing up against their agenda. But then again, we're not asking the devil for permission to obey God neither, Rob. So we do television as well, lots of radio, lots of TV. Next week we'll be in Alan Keyes' studio in Tennessee. So it's literally one thing after another. And if we weren't doing one thing after another, I'd be complaining about the fact that we weren't. So all is good.
Cool. On your website, you have a lot of resources. Your DVD series, tell us about that. What's included in there?
DVD series is pretty much what I just explained to you as far as what we do in high schools. There's so much to talk about concerning the content in between, how I start off the assembly and the end of the assembly. But we cover, you name it, drug abuse. We cover what's going on concerning the perversion and the perversiveness that's taking place in this country, the purpose of law, what it does, how important it is. And I'm taking that in the natural to explain that, listen, if you're sick and tired of man's 10,000 commandments, then just get back to God's 10. So I'm just covering a lot of different topics, drinking, then the indoctrination schemes. And then I also talk about lines between church and state. And just like you said during the couple minutes that we had before we went live here, it's interesting to note how people in schools, when I talk about Moses and the 10 Commandments on the back of the Supreme Court, how I'll always get a kid to come up to me after an assembly and say, you're crossing lines between church and state. And then what I'll do is ask him to show me in the Bill of Rights where he can find that. And of course, they come back and they tell us to, blank off or whatever the case is because it wasn't there. But we're not there to stir it up in such a way. We're there to give them answers. And the kids over and over, and it's not just the kids neither, it's the parents as well. We did a premiere here in the state of Minnesota where about 800 people showed up, and the adults loved it as well. but it was there to bring about the answers. And they continuously told us, Rob, it was like somebody turned the lights on. See, we have to be the conscience the church does, and that means with knowledge. We have to bring the knowledge to the people as to why they're being destroyed, Hosea 4:6. And there's not a whole lot of that going on, regardless if you're an apostle or a prophet, a teacher, an evangelist, or a pastor, Ephesians 4:11. We have to get to the people. And I think what's happening in the church is so many people are willing to play church, but when they walk outside the building, then they become what they were before they entered the church. And Jesus said in 1 John 2:4 that he that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. So Christians, we need to get out there and study and show ourselves approved unto God and get busy being about the work of the Lord's hands. And what is it? The end aim is people. And that's what people in the church are afraid of. So again, we're just trying to outdo what others are not doing. And in the process of doing that, we're having good results. What an opportunity we have today, Rob.
Well, yeah, and one of the biggest things I still see is we are historically illiterate and biblically illiterate.
Yes.
And your DVD series would be an excellent resource for people to get to use in small groups, in
Yes.
even home studies, Bible studies, history studies. It's a great resource.
If you
I
like
don't know how many are in there.
somebody get in trouble, that's the video series for you. But we bring about the answers, but we also show them the cross that goes along with bringing about those answers. Yes.
Well, it's truth.
Yeah.
And I mean, you back everything you say up with
Facts.
references and facts. So it's hard to argue with that. So, so it's sonsoflibertymedia.com, probably the best site to go to.
Yeah, but then you get all the links from that point. You can go to sonsoflibertyradio.com and or sonsoflibertymedia.com. We're also on Facebook, which is Bradlee Dean, or Twitter's Bradlee Dean 1. And we've really been pushing our Sons of Liberty Media YouTube page as well. Put Bradlee Dean in there with Sons of Liberty Media. And we're growing exponentially over there. We just started pushing this probably, I don't even think it's been 3 months. I've been working with Jared on trying to get our signal right. But we've been working probably full bore for the last 3 months. And we've already got about 15,700 friends and subscribers. So we're really starting to work that as well. And we're also looking to do more TV in the up and coming months as well.
Good. And you're also planning a conference coming up in May?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a conference in May. I don't have all the details. I'm still waiting for that download, which usually comes when I need it. Next week, we're going to be in Nashville. We just got back from California, so we'll be looking to work there. And in between, we're probably going to be working on some documentaries as well. Locally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if people want to have you come and speak or do a special seminar, I know you could go on. You could probably do a week-long seminar for folks.
Yeah.
So how do they do that?
1-866-233-0747. Now is the time to book us because it will fill up really quick here. If it's something that you want to do in the near future, I'm also open for that if it can work out. But we're pretty much the guys that will come in and do what most people don't want to do. A lot of times pastors have me in just like they did in Temecula, California. They say, Bradlee, I want you to come and make a mess of things and let me clean up. That way I'm the bad guy. He's not. I work with pastors that way. And they appreciate that. So again, if you want to book us at any time, 1-866-233-0747. And we'd love to be a part of bringing the answers into your local communities, regardless if it's a school or a house meeting. One of the things I wanted to say, Rob, is, when Barack Hussein Obama was in his criminal administration or in office, we could have been somewhere every single week all over the country. It seems like the people are asleep now, and we still need to wake up because, like Thomas Jefferson said, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. There's too many people sleeping today, Rob, and people in the church need to realize that we need to be aware right now as to what's taking place in the country. We need to stay awake, and we need to understand what Thomas Jefferson meant and what he said.
So what do you think? What's the solution here? How do we get justice for Hillary, Obama, and that whole crew?
Yeah.
And why is George Soros still running around free?
Exactly. And I think what you just said answers its own question. Why is Barack Hussein Obama? As a matter of fact, I can give you a prime example of just recently we heard the president talk about how Barack Hussein Obama was responsible for funding Iran. And Iran were allegedly responsible for creating missiles that were attacking Americans in that particular country. So what he did, in essence, is call him out for his treason, which is found in Article 3, Section 3.
Well, he sent them pallets of cash in the middle of the night.
That's exactly right.
Nothing was ever said about that.
That's right. That's treason. But what happened the very next day is Donald Trump, instead of calling out Barack Hussein Obama for his treason and holding him to it, he lays sanctions on Iran and totally lets off Barack Hussein Obama. We're seeing this over and over and over again after Donald Trump promised to prosecute the likes of Hillary Clinton. You've seen that on television. That's easily accessible. 41 seconds into his victory speech, he said that, quote unquote, that Americans owe Hillary Clinton a great debt of gratitude for her service to our country. And then he later on, a couple days later, said that the Clintons are good people. I don't want to hurt them. We've seen this flip-flop attitude concerning his purpose, which is, by the way, found in Article 2, Section 3. The president is to faithfully execute the laws against all, both domestic and foreign. Well, we're cleaning everybody else's government out, but we're failing to do it with our own. And I think that's quite telling as to what we're dealing with here in this country today. They're not being prosecuted. And by the way, that's just the tip of the iceberg, the Clintons and the Obamas and Comey, and the list goes on. But they're not being prosecuted, and people need to pay attention to the fact that not only are they not being prosecuted, they're actually being rewarded. You're seeing him on book tours making millions of dollars. You're seeing Barack Obama buying his mansion in Martha's Vineyard. So the opposite of what we're being told is actually happening on so many different fronts concerning this current administration, and it's very disturbing.
Well, you know, they're getting the book deals, but I kind of think that's a little bit of money laundering in some form, because who's going to read Hillary's book? I've seen it 59 cents on the sale rack, and they're still not selling.
That's right. And there's a lot of that going on. And see, that's really good, Rob, because again, that's how far I dig in as far as what you just said. People think that, look at all the money they're making. Well, in some cases they are, but they're making it through other channels. And those are fronts as to how they are funneling money. But people think that their books are out there selling, their #1 bestsellers. And you're right, when you go and check them out and you look at their stock is filled. They didn't sell anything. It's all premised on a lie. And there's so much of that going on through the government, first the church, because the church is responsible, and through the media that is giving them props every step of the way, that are in fact covering for the acts of those that are committing crimes against we the people. If we want justice in this country, to answer your question, we're going to have to get it ourselves, because I don't see it on the horizon. I know that people are saying, well, just wait till the second term comes around. Well, listen, he didn't do it the first term. By the way, he has the approbation and the approval of the American people overwhelmingly, and nobody can deny that, but yet he still hasn't prosecuted him. And I think that a lot of people that follow Donald Trump's administration, I'm for the law. I'm not for the party system, which is unconstitutional. I'm a Christocrat, like that of Benjamin Rush, when he said, I'm not this and I'm not that, I'm a Christocrat. Again, I'm for the law. And if we were all for the law and understanding what it is that our responsibility is before God and man, Hillary Clinton would have been put away a long time ago, along with every other corrupt politician in Washington, D.C. But again, what we see is Donald Trump does nothing more than slams his political opposition, and he continuously promotes the fights by filling the seats, and it goes no further than that. And that should bother everybody in this country.
Well, I like what you said. You said the church is responsible.
Yes.
What do we do to wake up the church? Because
I'm doing it right
seems
now.
To me that you can poke them, and they're not going to wake up.
Yeah, so I think the best way, Rob, is what we do. I think as and I'm talking about us, you and me, and other ministries, just get out there and lead the way. Because we're going to see that there's people that are laying down that you didn't think were there, that will all of a sudden rise when they need to rise. And I think it's more than not, and I'm sure you found this as well, it seems to come, the support comes from the people that you didn't expect, and the people that you expected to be there in support. And I'm not talking about just financially, I'm talking about in the walk that God has called us all to. it seems that those that we expected to be there are the first ones gone. So we just got to trust God and do all that we can do and leave the results up to him.
Amen. Yeah, I see that all the time. So, well, what would you like to leave us with? Final thoughts. We got about 5 minutes here.
Edmund Burke said, "Evil prevails because good men do nothing." I respect Edmund Burke, and I think he was a great man. But on this quote, he's wrong, because good men don't allow evil to prevail. And the fact of the matter is, we just need to start getting out there and actually bringing about the result that's so needed. If you're looking for an opportunity, that's all you have to do is walk out your door. There's so many people that are caught up into what they should be a part of, how they should be a part of it. Just go out there. And that's all you have to do today is tell the truth. And before you know it, you're going to find out what your ministry is, because you're going to expose someone that doesn't want to be exposed. That's what we've been doing for 23 years. God is faithful. And I trust that we're going to be here for another 20 years. And I trust that God's going to give my children a future and a hope, because I believe that we can get through this. I'm not saying that we're not going to have hard times, but I am saying that I believe that we can get our posterity to the other side if the older generation is willing to stand up and fight for them. But we have to stand up and fight. So if we're going to call ourselves the good people, then let's stand up and follow the Christ and practice what we preach. Because it's not what is Jesus or what would he do, it is what is he doing today. So we need people out there, and if you're called of Christ, then you know what? Be led of the Spirit, Romans 8:14, and get out there and seek and save that which is lost again, because the opportunities are there like never before. So I see where men lack. We have such a huge opportunity. And I also say, as a son of the Most High God, what an opportunity that we have in answer to when the Lord said, "Call unto me and I will answer and show you great and mighty things, which you know not," because the opportunities are like never before. So God is willing to give the church what it's willing to fight for. And again, I end with, we have to first stand up and fight so we can see exactly what he's willing to do on our behalf through a kairos and a chronos moment.
Absolutely. Once you obey and take that first step, God is faithful. I like what your one of your T-shirts says. This republic was not established by cowards, and cowards will not preserve it. I've got one of those. So,
amen. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Jared. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks for being here, Bradlee. It's sonsoflibertymedia.com, and catch the radio show. You're coming up here, I think, in an hour, right?
That's right. 2 to 3 Central every day, Monday through Friday, and on Saturdays, 2 to 4 Central.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Bradlee.
Thank you.
We'll see you again.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. And folks, just to let you know, I'm going to give you our schedule here coming up for the next few weeks. We have next week on WCNTV, we will have Mike Kerr from Hear the Watchman, along with Coach Dave Daubenmeyer of Pass the Salt Ministries. February 19th, Ted Brower from Health Masters, and we're going to be hopefully discussing a little bit about this coronavirus, and along with a lot of other things. February 26th, Sheriff Joe Arpaio from Maricopa County, Arizona, is we're going to be very privileged to have him on the show. March 4th, J.R. Harrison from the Natural Family Foundation. And on March 11th, we have Ray Comfort from Living Waters will be joining us. You can watch this program on WCNTV.net or on the Wisconsin Christian News Facebook page, the Wisconsin Salt and Light Brigade Facebook page, the WCNTV Facebook page, or on YouTube. That's it for today. Thanks, folks. I appreciate you joining us. And thank you, Jared, for doing another great job as our producer. God bless.